All right, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to everyone joining us tonight. So, on behalf of Malka, Malaysian Lactation Consultant Association, I would like to warmly welcome all of you today to our webinar in conjunction with the World Breastfeeding Week 2025. This year's theme is Prioritize Breastfeeding, Create Sustainable Support Systems, a reminder that breastfeeding is not just a personal choice, but a collective responsibility. It takes families, healthcare providers, communities, and governments working together to create an environment where every mother and baby can thrive. My name is Jasmine, and I'm honored to be your moderator for tonight. We have a very exciting lineup of speakers and discussion today, so let's get started. Right, so first, to set the stage for our conversation for tonight, let's welcome our first speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Zahara Sulaiman, for her opening remark. Dr. Zahara Sulaiman is the chairperson of Malka, a medical doctor and lecturer at USM and IBCLC, and coordinator for the local governance task force of the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action, WABA. Tonight, she will give a brief introduction to Malka and speak on what is a sustainable breastfeeding support system, providing us with a global and regional perspective. With that, I would like to welcome Dr. Zahara. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to Dr. Nur Jasmine, our MC for tonight. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon, everyone. So let me start by actually introduce to you about Malka. Can you see my slide? No? Let me just share it again. Sorry about that. Supposed to work. Okay, now. Okay, I hope you can see now. All right. Okay, so as Jasmine mentioned just now, Malka is actually Malaysian Lactation Consultant Association. Okay, we are very new. We just registered late December 2023. So we are still in the first 1,000 days of life if you look into like breastfeeding durations. Okay, so we are still new, but we hope that, you know, this event today will set a platform for us together with others, breastfeeding support group in Southeast Asia. And if you look into our visions, you know, we would like to actually cultivate professionalisms in providing skilled lactation care in Malaysia. Okay, the main point here is actually skilled lactation care, and it's professional care that we want to provide to specifically women in Malaysia that needs the care. And how can we actually attain our visions? Okay, there are actually three ways of how doing it. When we want to talk about our vision, it's actually through professional growth, educations, and advocacy. And I mean, we cannot run away from these three ways on how we want to achieve our visions. Okay, but if you want to look into more details, how we can actually achieve in all this area, okay, we can actually go into detail. But I don't plan to actually talk about this much tonight. Just to give you some overview. Right, so who are we? If you can see here, let me just introduce you to be a bit about who we are. And definitely all of us in Malka are IBCLC, and we are certified lactation consultant. And most of us are actually either in medical doctors or nurses or mother support groups. And then we also have nutritionists as well. Okay, we have family medicine specialists, Dr. Niza, also one of our pits surgeons. So here we are, various background, but with the same missions and visions to actually provide professionals services to the mothers in Malaysia. Okay. If you want to know us more about Malka, you're most welcome to visit our websites. And then we have this interactive map where you can actually get to know our members in more detail. You can just click them and get to know who they are, where they are, and what they are doing in their places. Okay, so yes, come and visit us more, and that's a bit about who we are and our background about Malka. Right. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce to you about our World Breastfeeding Week this year theme. Okay, if you look, everyone I'm sure have looked into this theme, which is to create sustainable support system. Okay, so if you have gone through these sheets, and then you can really see what it actually composed of. But let me just explain here a bit about when we talk about creating a sustainable breastfeeding support. Okay, when we mention about sustainable and support, okay, there are actually a few keywords there. We have to ensure that mothers, all mothers, all mothers, regardless of background, age, and everything, okay, they need to have support in the environment, and then they need to have these resources regarding breastfeeding for the first 1,000 days of life. Okay, we have been talking about that for the first 1,000 days of life, and because of that, breastfeeding support has to actually begin in the antenatal period. Okay, and that's the best time. Even some people even started to talk about breastfeeding even before they actually getting married and planning ahead of their having their family. So sustainable goes beyond durations. Okay, it goes across dimensions, across generations, because as we know, different generations understands maybe breastfeeding has different perceptions. So we need to make sure that all of them in different generations actually can get the more information across. Okay, and it has to go across system and also support for all levels. Okay, so in short, when we talk about what do we mean by building a system that is sustainable, okay, there are a few criteria here. First, it has to be accessible. Okay, acceptable and affordable means that something, it must be affordable for everyone to actually achieve the care. It must be evidence-based, so that people know what to do the right way to support the mothers. And the facilities and community-based. You go to the people, not people come to you all the time, so they can be reached. Okay, and when you talk about sustainability, it has to be long-term. It's not just you don't just see them at once. You see them again and again until they actually get all the support they needed. Okay, and it has to be equitable and integrable within the existing healthcare services. Okay, so these are actually all the factors that actually compose to sustainability of the providing the breastfeeding support. Right. So just a few more slides. Okay. So where we are and why are we talking about this topic tonight? Okay. If you look into this, who are the people, what are the components that actually plays role in providing this sustainable support? Okay. I highlighted here the yellow here, community-based support. So all of us here are actually based in our own country, but we are actually the people who actually provide the services in our community, and we run under NGOs, various NGOs background, but we have the same missions actually to provide community-based support. So here we are, one of the main core component, in providing the continuous sustainable support. So what can we do, as a community-based support? Of course, we can encourage mothers support group, father support group, which are actually acceptable at where we are, which country we are, culturally acceptable, and has to be cost effective. Okay, and secondly, we have to actually promote community-driven initiative, and then it has to be something that is acceptable to the community that we serve. That's most important. All right. So these are, if you go into that sheets in the WABA preparing, you can see the different places have different approach which are suitable to the people, to the local people. I'm not going to show you all of that, okay, just to show you a few that they have it in this WABA sheets here. Okay, so this is what happened. Like, for example, in Argentina, they have these human milk collector centers. Okay, and this is actually through coordinations that they can reach people all over Argentina. Okay, in Australia, they have this system in Victoria where they actually follow up children up to 5 years old, which is something very interesting. Okay. And China, a very big country, how they actually go into getting the people by going through the digital verifications. Okay, they have many online educational videos, right? And this is how one of the way how they actually get into the sustainable system to the community, right? So here we are tonight from all over Southeast Asia. We don't have all the countries, but at least we have 5 representatives from different countries, and we want to actually hear from different countries, what they do, and then what actually works at their places for their people. And so this is why we are having these sessions with different country representative. And I hope this is just introductions, and I'm also looking forward to listen to all the other speakers for tonight. So that's it for my introduction, and then pass back to our MC, Dr. Jasmine. Assalamualaikum.
All right, so thank you very much, Dr. Zahara, for introducing Malka to our audience and for framing our discussion so clearly and reminding us that sustainable support requires both structure and collaboration from all levels of care. So, hello everyone who just joined us. So, I hope you can share the link so that everyone can benefit from our webinar, because we have more exciting dialogues and forum to discuss about breastfeeding support in the Southeast Asia region. Right. So welcome everyone. Good evening. All right. So that's good. So let's move on to our next session, where we'll have a few panels sharing their experience in their country. So our next session is called Shared Lessons from the Field, from the Eyes of Civil Society Organization. So here we will hear directly from the NGO leaders representing Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Singapore. So in this session, each panelist will share 3 things, which are number one impactful initiative from their organization. Secondly, one key challenge that they faced. And finally, one important lesson learned from their journey for breastfeeding support in their country. So today we are very fortunate to have with us today Miss Nia Umar from Indonesia, Miss Ines Fernandez from Philippines, Miss Mina Sopsamai from Thailand, and Miss Nabila from Singapore. Let's begin with our first speaker, Miss Nia. Miss Nia is currently the chairman of IMI, which is Asosiasi Ibu Menyusui Indonesia. She's an IBCLC and has extensive experience helping mothers with breastfeeding in her country. So please welcome Miss Nia.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jasmine, and thank you, everyone, for inviting me on behalf of IME here. Since we are assigned to present 3 things, what's our main breakthrough and what is the lesson learned from there? Then, after thinking what I'm going to present tonight, maybe I choose this program that has been one of the how do you say it? Yeah, it's like our trademark program workshop. We call it workshop for workshop untuk ustad dan ustazah, or in English, workshop for Islamic leaders, because we believe the religious leaders has role in preventing stunting through promoting breastfeeding and good practice in infant and young child feeding in the family. So next, before, can you next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so before I start my talking about workshop from the Islamic leaders, I want to talk a bit about IME. So IME is a nonprofit peer-based organization of a breastfeeding mother support group established since 2007. So we want to be the trusted support group for mothers and play a leading role in increasing breastfeeding rates in Indonesia through promotion, education, advocacy initiatives. Right now, IME has 19 provinces, branches, and 14 cities all over Indonesia. And with this wide network, we are trying to provide accurate information, meaningful guidance, and warm support for breastfeeding mothers and their family. So we are committed through our program by doing education, outreach, and many breastfeeding support. So basically, we do a lot of like classes, counselings. We also do advocacy to the government, to the national and the local level. Next. So background of what we're trying to do with the workshop for the Islamic leaders, we believe that there is this proverb in Arabic that Subhanul Yaum Rijaulul Khat, which means the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. We believe that. So breastfeeding helps to create the future leaders, the healthy leaders, the smart leaders. So healthy and strong generation is born from families that pay close attention to health, especially the health of mothers. Within mother's womb, the life of child begins to grow and develop. And therefore, the mother's health and planning during pregnancy, giving birth, and after that, crucial moments after that, breastfeeding. So we believe in Islam, as stated in the Quran and in Hadith, women are given honored position, the importance of support also from the husband, and also giving breastfeeding, breast milk for the. It's also stated in the Quran. It's already stated in Al-Baqarah, ayah number two, ayah two, and it's stated clearly, mothers shall breastfeed their children for 2 full years. That is for those who wish to complete the term of nursing. And it is the duty of the father to provide food and clothing for the mothers in the fair manner. No person is burdened with the mother, sorry, no person is burdened with more than they can bear. So it's stated clearly, and we believe if we use this, and because a lot of part in the Quran, not only in Al-Baqarah, said about breastfeeding. So there are some other ayah also who stated about the importance of breastfeeding. So we try to elaborate this into a workshop for that. Next. So stunting is a very serious issue in Indonesia. According to WHO, stunting is there is a standard below 2 standard deviation from the WHO growth curve, and in Indonesia the rates is quite high, and the exclusive breastfeeding rates is only 52.5%. So probably around 50% of Indonesian children, babies didn't receive exclusive breastfeeding. So it's increased the risk of stunting also because of that. So, in promoting and supporting and protecting breastfeeding and community involvement, we know that it's very important. Not only giving socialization, raising awareness, not only about how to breastfeed, but we believe um, trying to spread awareness about the importance of breastfeeding through the religious aspect is also important, because nowadays a lot of mothers and families are in oftenly come to how do you say it, sermon, a religious sermon like pengajian, we call it in Indonesia. And a lot of schools nowadays, boarding schools for children like pesantren, madrasah. So it's increasing the rates of the awareness of the importance of religion into education. So we try to use this as approach to religious teachings as considered to have a strategic value in raising awareness on providing maternal and child health information within the communities. So we try to use this as a platform to inform others about the importance of breastfeeding. Next. So the workshop I have already delivered for quite some times. So we usually invite a lot of. This is the picture here is showing the latest, the one that we had this August, in celebration of the World Breastfeeding Week. So we invite some of the some of the religious leaders. There are female and ustad. There's a male and female ustad ustazah who came, and they're very enthusiastic through the program. Next. Okay, so it's been carried out for quite some times. The program itself, there are main two focus of the program. In the first session, in the morning session, we do the religious perspective of the importance of breastfeeding. So we invite Islamic scholar who will present why the breastfeeding is stated so many times in Al Quran, in Hadith, and try to elaborate and try to explain it to the participants, so they have knowledge about oh, this, we can use this ayah, we can use this hadith whenever we have our sermon about the, and say that it is stated in the Quran, in the hadith, about the importance of breastfeeding. And after that, we have the health perspective. Usually we invite doctors. This one we invite Dr. Asti Praborini. She's an IBCLC. She speaks about the importance of breastfeeding from the health perspective. So all the participant got two perspectives about the importance of breastfeeding, from the religious point of view and from the health point of view. And on the evening session, an afternoon session, we have an FGD, focus group discussion, facilitated by our IME breastfeeding counselors. We have small groups where we are discussing what's the follow-up plan for the leaders who just joined the sessions, and what is their in the future, what they're going to do with the knowledge that they just got from the sessions. Next. The challenges, what we're doing with this program is specifically, sometimes it's not easy to find participants who's willing to attend a full day workshop, because it's a very a long workshop. Funding and sponsorship, yeah, like usual, I know every NGO face this challenge also. It's a big challenge nowadays. And one thing that I'm pretty how do you say it? Yeah, I'm really make leaders, but I hope someday we can do it in other religions, because I believe other religions also stressing out the importance in their beliefs. So I think it's also important to raise awareness through the other religions. I think we skip one slide when I want to show how many. Can we go back? Yeah, we've done this for quite some time. See, we did for since 2010. So all over Indonesia, we did it. The most interesting part is we did following the Palu and Donggala earthquake and tsunami, and also in Lombok. So this is supported by UNICEF Indonesia, and this is a very they're very good, very positive response from the Islamic leaders there. And then, because usually after there is an earthquake or whatever disaster, usually in the tent, in the refugee tents, usually they always have a meetup, also have pengajian, like sermons. Nah, the leaders can speak about the importance of breastfeeding there. What is one of their topic to discuss. Next. Okay, I think that's my last slide. So I think, yes, that's all. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm looking forward for the rest of the presentation of after my slides here. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, Ms. Nia, for sharing your work in Indonesia. Right, so I see a few people are joining us now. Right, so welcome to our webinar. For the ones who just joined in, so please say hi in the comment section and let us know where you're from. All right, so we are still in the beginning of our discussion. Right, so it's very interesting to see the breastfeeding rate in Indonesia, because in Malaysia the breastfeeding initiation rate is about 65.3%, and the prevalence of ever breastfed children is about 98.1%. But we do have problems in sustaining exclusive breastfeeding to 6 months. Right, so now let's move on to our next speaker, which is Miss Ines. All right, so Miss Ines Fernandez is from the Philippines and has been doing extensive work advocating for breastfeeding, and has contributed to policies to make breastfeeding a right for Filipino mothers since the 1980s. She's the founder of Arugaan, a support system for women with infants and young children, since 1989, and the co-founder of the breastfeeding movement in the Philippines. She's also the IPFAN G5 global leader and contributor to UNICEF New York publication on guidelines to wet nursing. So please welcome Ms. Ines Fernandez.
Good evening. Thank you, Jasmine. And I would like to thank MALCA, Malaysian Association of Lactation Consultants, for this invitation to this great event in celebrating the World Breastfeeding Week 2025 theme, prioritizing breastfeeding by creating sustainable support system. My organization, Arugaan, is a very deep endearment word in Filipino language. It means to nurture fully with lifetime commitment. You cannot just say it to anyone, the word arugaan, because there is also an informal word, alagaan, means to take care for the moment, for the year, but arugaan means a lifetime commitment. And in this coming Breastfeeding Awareness Month, which is we celebrate in the Philippines, we translated the theme into practical, creative terms. We did a live concert, but it is a muted concert because what we did is we demonstrated, next slide please, synchronized lactation massage for a pump feeder mom who never experienced direct breastfeeding, for a bottle feeding mom, and a mom who claims she has very low milk supply. So the three of them on stage, plus me and two of the Arugaan Best team, showed the Department of Health, the medical professionals, nurses, doctors, midwives, nutritionists, and the community-based health worker how it is done in Arugaan designed powerful lactation massage for 1 hour. We were able to transform them back to breastfeeding power. Next slide, please. Next slide. So you can see the mom who claims she has very low milk supply, but we're just in the middle of the lactation massage intervention. She was already sprinkling with loads of breast milk. The same with the mom who is a pump feeder. And I handled the bottle feeding mom with a 4-month-old baby. And you will see in that slide, the head of the DOH Health Center, this lady doctor, was already following my step-by-step explanation why we have to do body works to relax the body and to stimulate the breastfeeding hormones. Even at the back, there are a lot of breastfeeding hormones to stimulate. Likewise, on the feet and with the hands. And finally, that's the time we have to handle the front. But we never start with the breast, but with the body parts, the back. And next slide, please. And now we were able to lactate in less than an hour a bottle feeding mom who's been bottle feeding formula milk a 4-month-old baby. And we guided her how to position the proper latch. So women supporting women. You can see in this photo slide, another mom is act as a wall on her back because it is on stage, and another mom fixing the positioning of the baby and putting some pillows and rolled towels so that the body is firm in the breastfeeding position. And I was guiding the mom and guided her also how to express breast milk using her hands, not the pump. And the Department of Health officers were very amazed, and it happened in so short a time. Next slide, please. And the mom who claims very low milk supply had abundance of breast milk to even be part of the milk letting activity to give to the Human Milk Bank of the Lipa City in DOH province in Batangas, outside Metro Manila. And we taught her how to hand express, and so that she can leave it to the caregiver, which is the dad, stay at home while she goes back to work. So it is cup feeding. no bottles and teats nor pacifier. That is the international code, WHO code, to regulate marketing of breast milk substitutes. So we have to explain why we don't need all these gadgets that disempower women, because these are all for profits, not for health. And these are all imported and made by men. It is not made by Allah. Everything, our hands and our breasts, is made by God. And it is most powerful innate resource that we can help the family and the country from not importing inferior product. And we celebrated it with the Department of Health. So it's a collaboration with NGOs like us, Mother Support Group, the health professionals, the families, and the communities all together celebrating. And also seeing and, and demonstrating that is the most powerful imprinting impact to every family. Next slide, please. Especially to the vulnerable mom. And another event that happened last August 5 and 6, a grandma came to us because she wanted to support her working daughter. She will do the breastfeeding at daytime while the daughter is working at the call center in the evening shift. And so we borrowed a breastfeeding baby after the arugaan lactation massage. The whole body, we put now the two babies on her breast. And we asked for a donor's breast milk to do a drip drop during the transition. And in half a day, she already had a lot of milk. And we have a very beautiful event that happened to us. An Indonesian lady doctor came for training on lactation management, and she never experienced direct breastfeeding. So what we did is the same. We do the breastfeeding counseling in tandem with the arugaan lactation full body massage. And in her experience, she only was pumping her breast milk and gave to her daughter for 1.5 years. And her daughter is already 3 years old. So it means it has a gap of 1.5 years, lactation gap. But immediately in that 3 hours, we're able to bring her back to experience for the first time direct breastfeeding from a Filipino baby. And we teach her different positions and the drip drop too from donor's breast milk. And next slide, please. So I walk my talk. I'm a grandma who breastfed another baby at 62 years old for 1 month. And that was a 1-year-old baby. And then because we have Arugaan Crash, daycare for babies that operates 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday to Friday, in support of working women to continue breastfeeding by choice, to express breast milk and leave the milk, give through cup feeding, or we have a wet nurse. So we practice our traditional wet nursing. So our staff at the creche are wet nurses, young moms. And because the wet nurse was absent for a week, I breastfed, I wet nursed the 2-month-old enrollee baby at the creche. And in our daycare Arugaan creche, we also practice complementary feeding, nurturing naturally with early learning activities, in between breastfeeding, and we also serve indigenous food that heals and nourishes. No importation of any poor, inferior products for complementary feeding, but all that is harvested from our garden or from the market, local market. That way, we support the economy. So that is how we translate the global strategy on infant and young child feeding and how we do the sustainable way. Thank you so much for your invitation. Terima kasih, salamat, mabuhay, long live. Thank you for this experience of sharing.
All right. So thank you very much, Ines, for sharing your work with the Filipino mothers. I'm so excited to hear that grandma can also breastfeed a baby when they get the right support in order to support their working daughters. That's so interesting what you are doing in Philippines. All right. So let's move on to our next speaker. So before that, I would like to welcome for those who just join us. So don't worry, you are on the right time. You haven't missed anything exciting, right? So for our next speaker is from Thailand. So Miss Mina Sopsamai is a prominent international board certified lactation consultant and nurse midwife based in Bangkok, Thailand, with extensive experience in prenatal care, childbirth, and breastfeeding support. She serves as the IBLCE coordinator for Thailand and has held leadership positions, including as general manager for the Childbirth and Breastfeeding Foundation of Thailand. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Miss Mina to share her experience. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Very good evening for everyone. Swadika from Thailand. I hope this time we can share a little bit of what happened in Thailand according to when we talk about what is the sustainable breastfeeding support system that we love to see. Then I choose this one to share with you about what I feel this is very important. When we talk about breastfeeding support and sustainable, we cannot leave the 10 step and we need a policy, but the policy needs somebody to work on and make it happen. And that is mostly the nurse who are in the hospital or in the community. Then I choose Lactation Nurse Association of Thailand to come and share with you about how we feel the importance of this professional and how they can carry on a sustainable breastfeeding support system to help mothers successful in breastfeeding. We call Lactation Nurse Association of Thailand, a nickname is LINEC, okay? And this is very, very new for us. I mean, it was born only on 2021 from a group of nurses. After we work, we have a lot of like our advocacy organization and work on the policy and everything. And we found that the one who worked tirelessly 24 hours close to moms and baby is the nurse. And this one carry on the possibility for mom to breastfeed the baby successful. Then we gathering and found this our organization. The mission is nearly the same as some other advocacy. Is protect, promote, and support breastfeeding, strengthening breastfeeding network and advocacy, and strengthening the professional. This is what we are focusing on because we found that this is very important to just strengthen the professional who have to be close to moms and be a key person to make a breastfeeding success. Okay, and to make breastfeeding success, we need knowledge, we need a good service, we need innovation to help moms to carry on easier, and we need the consistency. And we look into the strengthening professional, the lactation nurse. We found that they are very tired, they need somebody to support, they work all day, all night, and have lots of like challenges all the time. Then we found that the impactful project that Lennox choose is Lactation Nurse the Idol. We try to show up how we recognize the nurse who do their job, right? And this project is focusing on our so it's in the healthcare setting, so it's in the community, research and innovative, and our educational institution. Then we let them send the project, which is all this 4 dimension, which we think not just only the knowledge, but we can carry on the service. And then we have more innovative, and then we can consistency share the knowledge and practice to other nurse or other people right? The next is we do it every year. And after we award the nurse, we will have a learning session for successor. We do it online to allow more people to learn from the success of those people who get the award. Then the knowledge, the service, the innovation, consistency has carried on and learned time to time every year. The people who reward get award already will not be able to send the same focus on the next year. They have to change to the other focus, or they have to wait until like 2 more years, something like that, to allow people to get into this award and learning and sharing, and let us like see, I mean, how we can help each other more. Okay, and the next step for this is we are trying to start the project of like buddy or support the research project. Funding is like Nia said, funding is a big issue for us, I mean, too. But when we do the conference every year, we can get some money back. And that is the resource that we plan to give it to the research project, as we will be the buddy. I mean, the team will be buddies and help them successful the project research project. And we found that all this issue will help improve the knowledge of the nurse professional, very clear, to help from step 2 to step 10 happen in reality and progress. The next project that we found that is very helpful is what we call a breastfeeding note. We will make a infographics, which is very easy to digest in a issue that very popular or have lots of questions or challenges in the society, or something that are need to be correct or something like that. We keep carry on this, and we found that people now use a lot of like social media, and this is very popular for them. When we show up, we post some infographic, they have a lot of like sharing amongst, I mean, different like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever they have, a line group or whatever. Then it spread out lots of knowledge, and it helped make a stronger network that they can share better. We found that this is something that people who working or even mother looking for: short, good message and consistency. We try to send it out every month, every topic, or if we can have more than this, we can pop it up more in our very frequent. We found that even we do like this, the key challenges we have is we all volunteer and we still working. We not have much time. We getting old, we need new generation to come enjoy the forest, but how can we communicate and bring the new generation to come and enjoy the forest? And the world changes so fast, and then we never go faster than the change. How can we move faster to reach the change and go, I mean, along with the change in a proper way? Because we found that many times we not catch what the code or what the marketing or message go on. We are behind them all the time. How can we go forward? And this is the challenge that we found when we do the job. The next one is what we learn from this. The knowledge, attitude, and practice are in set. We need all of this. But how can we make a knowledge up to date and have to diverse or bring up a good attitude to carry on into practice? This is something that a little bit of like challenge us, and we found that if we can do it, it can help us success. And seeing the success, seeing the best learn hand-on is super best, because I mean, we always say that, or we teach them, they learn from us, they knowing a lot. But once they're not hand-on, they will not getting better. Then when we say that we improve the knowledge, we need to make the hand-on happen and make sure that when the hand-on has practiced in a better way, then it will reassure that the knowledge is in good press. Language and communication should not be barrier. Now we found that the generation gap bring us a lot of issues around, like how we can communicate a proper way. Grandmoms, moms, and daughters, how can we join the force of one communication that go through everybody properly? This is still in the barrier that we facing, and we found that we have to practice and learn from the young, learn from the old, and try to digest the communication to make it better. Making change needs consistency of work and monitoring. It's not just only consistency of carry on working, but it is monitoring. Because sometimes when we work and we not have a monitoring, it seems to be like nothing going to improve much. We all need that. And whenever people do it by heart, they will carry on that. How can we bring the new generation and let them do by heart? They feel appreciate and they have a very good attitude to carry on. We're looking for that. But how can we make it happen? That is what we learn from this, and we would like to share with you about the importance of the connecting between policy into practice. Is somebody who need to carry on, who need to just like motivate them or inspire them, award them, let them see that how much important they are in the process of making breastfeeding successful. And everybody's like to do their good job, but they feel tired sometimes. They can like feel like burn out. Do they have anything to help them feel better? Have emotional support, cheer them full, and then they can carry on nicely. That is what we are looking for, and we Linet is trying to make it happen and carry on this. We have regularly do a conference annually. We have a lot of our online workshop many times a year, and we are planning to have a buddy for research project after we are selected the project that we feel that this might be something that good to learn and share the experience. And not just only this, we still have work together with some other advocacies, like we joined our Asian Summit Breastfeeding, which is like just finished a couple of days ago. And we joined a lot of like our workforce, like working workplace. We sharing, our expertise to training some other hospital or others, other people who need a resource for training and help them support in the community. This is what we can do in health. Breastfeeding system in a good, sustainable way. And I hope that we can carry on all this thing, and we can expand the work into like more people to come and join. Because when we start the association, we not have much people to come join, but now we have like couple, like 2,000-3,000 member, and we hope that we can open to more and we have more member. But our activity never just limited only the member. It's open to all most of the time, to sharing, to explain that the knowledge and the information that we would like to share. And this is about, we are Linet, Lactation Nurse Association of Thailand. I hope you can see the picture of what we are. And thank you very much for having me in this panels. Yes. we hope we can make it again together. Thank you very much.
Hi, so thank you very much, Miss Mina, for sharing your interesting activities that you've done in order to encourage mothers in Thailand to breastfeed. It's very interesting to learn about the lactation nurse, the idol, as well as the infographic from the breastfeeding note. All right. So our next speaker is Miss Nabila Hanim from Singapore. She is currently the president of BMSG, which is Breastfeeding Mother Support Group of Singapore, and she is an IBCLC practicing in private practice. She has been actively advocating and helping mothers to breastfeed in Singapore. So please welcome Miss Nabila Hanim to share her experience. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to Malka for inviting me. So I'm from the Breastfeeding Mother Support Group, and yeah, I'm very happy and proud to represent the organization. We are actually the only charity focusing on breastfeeding in Singapore, and we have been around since the 1970s, although officially we have been a breastfeeding charity for about 34 years, and we offer mother-to-mother support for breastfeeding families. But really, honestly, we came about in 1975 as an informal support group due to the drop in breastfeeding rates. If you were to actually read the literature, our breastfeeding rates in Singapore is really quite low for a long time. And I'm going to talk more about this, I think, because we know that, Singapore, we have a very strong and robust economy. That has also impact, the way that mothering and parenting has come about in Singapore, and of course, affecting breastfeeding. So we are a social service agency under the National Council of Social Services, and we're very proud to see that we're also an Institute of Public Character, which means that we have a certain standard of governance that we have complied to, and that in itself puts us in the public trust, and that also means that when it comes to donations, we are a trusted charity, and that's really important in the Singaporean space. So what do we offer? We offer breastfeeding counseling, of course, protect, promote, and support breastfeeding. But more than that, we also do advocacy, and we are very much into public breastfeeding education. And in terms of, we are a women organization, so we are very proud to also say that we are also a member of the Singapore Council of Women's Organization. So what are our key initiatives? A bit more about us. Actually, we do a lot of things. When I was doing up the slides, I realized that, oh, wow, we really do a whole lot. And yet we are 98% volunteer run, and that's something that we're really proud of. So our main, I would say our main core business is to really provide mother-to-mother support in terms of breastfeeding knowledge, and we are also trained in para-counseling skills. So we conduct mom-to-mom support training. We also train the trainers. So over the years, we have, as of 2025, I think we have about 20 trainers, and at any one cycle of the counseling season every year, there are at least 60 active counselors rostered every day of the year from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And yes, so all of our counselors are actually volunteers. So we offer free breastfeeding counseling platforms. In Singapore, I think this is the same in many other countries, metropolitan countries, where our mothers are online, right? So we still have our phone hotline, which has been around since 1980s. Our phone line is actually on every health booklet when people give birth in the hospitals. But our very active platforms are actually the WhatsApp hotline and the private Facebook group for women. Every year we have thousands of queries coming in. Recently, as in the last 2 to 3 years, we have also adopted an omni-channel platform where mothers are also now able to ask us questions on Instagram, because we also realize that Facebook, the millennials, we are on Facebook, but for the younger moms, they are elsewhere. They're on Instagram and they're on TikTok and all that. And we realize that, there's a lot of misconceptions and misperceptions of breastfeeding going around. And it is really important for us to capture them. So that this technology has allowed us to really try to reach out to moms and have that visibility, that sustainability, to actually be that credible source of breastfeeding knowledge for the community at large. We also pride ourselves on having this mom-to-mom virtual and physical support group meetings. Really, in a highly technological age, it's really important for us to be available, right? So we really cater to where mothers are. So if they're online, we have it online. If they're offline, we would love to meet them. Another area that we are also here for parents are actually to provide affordable bite-sized breastfeeding workshops. This is something that we will mention, I will talk about later in the gaps. Really, in terms of childbirth education, I think parents know that, oh yes, I want to attend a childbirth education, but not so much when it comes to breastfeeding workshops or breastfeeding education. So we do have public talks. In fact, we're going to have one of our upcoming yearly community events coming up this Saturday to actually continue being visible. That's where we attract parents, the community, to actually come and find us and know that we are here for them. And we offer affordable rates when it comes to workshops, and for our counseling, it's really, really free. Okay, so we do collaborations, and social media is really where we also, I would say, is really something that we have built up in the last 2 to 3 years, where we know that mothers are online. So that is where we have built our capacity in writing articles, in creating infographics, so that these knowledge get shared really widely in the community. In terms of advocacy, we are also a member of the Sale of Infant Food Ethics Committee, SGCFEX. Basically, it is the committee that looks into the sale of breast milk substitutes in Singapore. Although currently we do feel that it's a little bit commercially dominated, but this is where we feel that our presence is important as being people on the ground, when it comes to, even the WHO has talked about predatory digital marketing of breast milk substitutes. And this is something that we are really concerned with, right? And we also have engagement with our government agencies, and we also engage the media and all that. And in terms of our counselors, while they are moms themselves, but they're also trained. So we really look into professional development, and we have our regular counselor check-ins where we sponsor our counselors to attend workshops, such as recently in 2024, we attended the Basic Sleep Workshop under Durham University to actually understand the whole idea about sleep, because in Singapore, sleep training is a big thing, and it has come up in our counseling, and we realize this is something that we need to bridge the gap. We also look into, we are a very diverse community. So we also want to learn more about the tradition. So for example, traditional Chinese medicine, cultural practices in confinement are things that we regularly share internally, so that our counselors are always up to date with breastfeeding knowledge and also cultural knowledge. And so this is where we pride ourselves in having inter-counselor support groups, so that we can continue to have that capacity building, right? 60 volunteers may seem, compared to other bigger countries, it might seem small, but for us in Singapore, having 60 counselors who are very committed to their rosters is really something that we're proud of. And it is something that is not easy, because they also have to juggle their day, their work and being a mother, and many of them are also still breastfeeding. And we're also proud to see that we are the only organization in Singapore where you can get your counseling hours to actually achieve your IBCLC certification. So you can see that there's really a lot of things that we do. Sharing some success stories in the recent years. This is really the work of the EXCO before mine. For a good 3 to 4 years, they were really hard at work, trying to push for more nursing spaces. So when I talk about nursing spaces, it could be nursing rooms, it could be, having nursing facilities at the workplaces, because in Singapore, it's not really mandated. But we are really, really proud that over the last 2 to 3 years, we've helped out a local member of parliaments to actually lobby this in Parliament itself. So we have on the lower left-hand corner is a member of Parliament. He's no longer a member of Parliament, but he was MP Louis Ng, and he was really into this lobbying for breastfeeding mothers in Parliament. And that was really great, because it actually helped us to contribute to the change of the Building and Construction Code on Accessibility. So the code of the Code on Accessibility by the BCA, it is basically a regulatory board that looks into buildings and all that. So it's not just on nursing rooms, but also on disability and access for people. And basically, we are really proud to know that they have actually have this in regulation for building owners, for the old and new, okay, for them, and what kind of recommendation, what kind of nursing rooms and all that. And this is something that really took a lot of time and energy. As you can see, we rallied people to come for Parliament to support when they were having the discussions. We also did a lot of surveys. So we surveyed hundreds of mothers in our community and beyond to actually really try to understand what are the unique struggles that they were facing at work. So, it's really sad to hear stories of, like, in 2024 at the time, people were still pumping in the toilets. They were not able to pump at work. And this is really one of the biggest challenges for us in BMSG because, or rather in Singapore, where going back to work is really something that is that really will impinge on mothers' ability to breastfeed for the long term. Having said that, another thing that I'm really proud of is the Breastfeeding Supporters Award. It is really something different that we have, something really new that we have introduced only in 2024. But we realized that, to normalize things, we have to actually recognize them. So it was really interesting to have people come up with stories of why they wanted to nominate their family members, their husbands, especially their grandparents, or rather grandparents of the babies, even friends or family members, and of course the employers. And these are one of the ways that we're trying to engage with the community to let them know that we recognize their struggles and we also want to share more of these stories. So in 3 days' time, we're also going to have a repeat of these awards for 2025. We're really, really happy to share that. It's so heartwarming to receive these stories, and really the human stories, humanifying, right? Giving that human face to breastfeeding as opposed to it being just something that is, oh, you need to do it for public health. Really to come in, being that mother-to-mother support, providing that human angle, to encourage breastfeeding is really something, is really something that we feel is really important for the community to realize that it's a beautiful thing when we work collectively to actually provide that sustainable effort for breastfeeding. So if you see here on the top right-hand corner, I have a screenshot, an article from Channel News Asia, where one of our winners, so the most supportive daddy last year, Mr. Dylan Chen. So basically what he did was he supported his wife who had just given birth, and she had to go through a spinal surgery. And he basically managed everything, the pumping, the hand expression, helping her to latch and all that for a good 6 months. So that's really, really inspiring. And really, honestly, there are many more stories for us to share, even in tiny Singapore. I saw a question just now whether our volunteers are paid. No, our volunteers are purely volunteers. They're not paid. They really do this. They go for training for 10 weeks, and then after that, they are sort of bonded, although there really are no penalties if they have to drop off and all that. We totally understand. We're very family friendly. But yes, it is inspiring that many of them are actually volunteering even after, I think our longest volunteer was volunteering for a good 10 years. And then that's really inspiring. Many of us are also around 5 to 6 years, and so on and so forth. So our lesson learned, we realized that being on the ground, a community on the ground, we have to do the whole of society approach. We don't just engage families, but we also engage stakeholders to push for change. And it's really interesting that we need to find an angle. Because in Singapore, you would know that we are a very small population, but we are also an aging population. Our birth rates are really, really declining. So we know that mothers have been finding it really hard to find breastfeeding support in the early postpartum days. And even our BFHI uptake has been on the decline. We have low rates of exclusively breastfeeding for the first 6 months. We have done a bit better. We're now at 3% for 6 months, but that's really some improvement over 10 years. So we're not making headway in getting more mothers to breastfeed longer, but at least we want to, let the community know that if you are breastfeeding, we are here for you no matter what form of breastfeeding you're doing. So capacity building is something that we also want to build because we have place and position ourselves as a credible and ethical source of evidence base. So we are brand neutral. We don't take problematic collaborations. We want to make sure that everything that we share as breastfeeding counselors is ethical. And we pride ourselves in being diverse. So we have medical workers, we have stay-at-home moms, we have teachers, we have engineers, we have social workers. All those things help us to, be current and be relevant. Right, and it is a continuous effort to reach out to as many parents as possible. Right, apologies for the font. Somehow it comes out a bit weird over here. But basically, other gaps and challenges that we are facing, just like any other NPO or nonprofit organization, we have to balance our overheads with our free programs. So we are still always trying to determine our income stream. We still rely on some grants and corporate donations. But this is where our messaging is really important. And we do continue to filter out unethical sponsors and donors, not just about code compliance, but to make sure that, we are not seen to be inclined to a particular brand and so on. All right. And one of the things that we struggle with is really because of predatory formula marketing, as it has downplayed the importance of breastfeeding and is worsened by the pressure that women face at home, at work, and of course, lowered confidence in women. due to the lack of support from birth, right? So, there are persistent misconceptions. For example, of course, birth interventions that lead to real breastfeeding problems are things that we hear about very, very often. There are unrealistic family ideals that clash with breastfeeding, for example, such as fed is best, postpartum practices that come at the expense of breastfeeding, and of course, sleep training, as I mentioned before. So some of these things are things that our counselors, face, and we are here to actually help them in terms of capacity building. How do we deal with this? What's the best way to respond? And how do we continue to protect breastfeeding despite it all? Right. I wanted to mention about the influencer culture. So I mentioned that, a lot of young moms nowadays, even moms who are, new moms or older even, the influencer culture is really strong, and sometimes they do perpetuate myths and unrealistic expectations. Influencers are really great when it comes to sharing good things, but sometimes they do also share things that can be damaging to breastfeeding. So for example, showing or featuring stash shots, or sharing pumping practices or breastfeeding practices that can actually be quite potentially damaging to the breastfeeding relationship. So breastfeeding is given a bad rep also, right? So we do have people, oh, you do you can stop breastfeeding because you want to protect your mental health. Now, we're not downplaying mental health, and we totally understand that it is not an easy journey. But this is where we feel that what should be shared instead is where to get the right support, where to get credible support, instead of practices that are not evidence-based. And of course, one of the things that really is a concern is, of course, the uptake of prenatal breastfeeding workshops is really low, and people may not place importance on learning about breastfeeding even before they get pregnant or during pregnancy, right? And then by the time they come to us, it's a bit too late. But then again, we are still here for parents, no matter what it is, right? And we are proud of what we do. I'm really glad to hear from everyone else, and I hope this has been useful for you as well. Thank you so much.
Right. So thank you very much, Ms. Nabila, for sharing your work, amazing work from Singapore, colleagues down there. Because you've been, it's very amazing to see how you put up, managed to lobby the nursing work space in workplaces. You see, and it's very nice where you put the phrase that to normalize breastfeeding in a low breastfeeding culture or region is to recognize the people who breastfed, because we recognize the struggle. So this will eventually create more awareness and promoting breastfeeding to the younger generation. So well done to all speakers from Indonesia, from Philippines, from Thailand and Singapore for sharing your amazing work that you've done in your country in order to promote, support and protect breastfeeding in your country. So now let's take a short break for a while, for 30 seconds, before we go to the next session, which is a moderated forum on the title, How Do We Move Forward with all the challenges that we face in sustaining a breastfeeding support system? So how do we move forward, especially in our Southeast region? So stay tuned. We'll just break for 30 seconds. So for that time, we will give you a poll in the comment section. So please respond to our poll on your screen. So we would love to hear from you. What are the most urgent gaps and needs in your country in terms of breastfeeding support? So please answer our poll. We'd love to hear your responses and see what are the challenges and needs in your country in terms of breastfeeding support. So let's take a break for a while. Thank you. So welcome back, everyone. Right, so let's move on to our next session, which is the open forum and moderated dialogue. So, building on what we have heard just now from the sharing by our four panelists, we now move on into an open forum and dialogue on how do we move forward together. I want to invite our panelists back to reflect on what future directions should we prioritize, how can we strengthen advocacy and resource sharing, and most importantly, what opportunities exist for regional collaborations. Right, so can we have all the speakers to be on the platform? All right, great. So everyone looks great today. All right, so let's move on to our open forum. Right, so let's start with Nia. All right, so Miss Nia, then I will open to the other speakers for our discussion. Right, so to start up our first discussion, so for Nia, from your experience, what should be the top priorities in building a sustainable support system in your country and across the region for Southeast Asia, particularly?
Yes, it's a good question, and I think the answer is a good and well-funded program. Uh, because again, breastfeeding, maybe people see it, oh, breastfeeding free, just put the baby here and then you need to pay. But no, to promote it, you need fund, you need resources. So the government needs to allocate funding, a proper amount of funding, and a very comprehensive strategy how to involve the stakeholders, whoever are important to be involved. And the importance, the stressing out not to involve people who has conflict of interest, because sometimes when we want to invite stakeholders, sometimes other parties who have interest, conflict of interest, wants to join and wants to be part as the stakeholder. So I think government needs to define which people we need to be invited and collaborative work. And the program should be implemented nationally, regionally, and collaboratively. And I think it has to be a monitoring and evaluation also for the programs. So yes, I think that's a big strategy. And I think, because I believe in promoting breastfeeding, we need the whole country to support. It's not only, we cannot do it out by ourselves.
Yes, I do agree with what you say because there's a lot of things to do, and I think government should invest for breastfeeding by providing funding, just like you said. And I think we should collaborate among ourselves to actually make the action more or pressing our government to have some fun for
Yes.
our next generation. All right. Okay, that's good, Nia. So let's move on to our next question. So I would like to ask Ines. All right. So from your experience, you've done a lot of advocacy work, right, in Philippines. So what advocacy strategies you think have been most effective in engaging the policymakers or communities, and how can we strengthen resource sharing among NGOs in this region? What's your take on that?
First, we have to consider that the best resource we have, our innate resource, is breastfeeding. But it's being stolen. And how would we wake up the government, the policymakers, become also breakers? Because we have the international code, which all the government ministers around the world have agreed to pass and translate into national law. For us, we have a strong milk code. For others, a variation. And what is lacking is implementation. And what we should do is to have a collaborative campaign on the code to protect breastfeeding rights, to protect women from predatory marketing, to protect them of stealing our wealth, because it is through hard work that we buy the formula and they became rich. The milk manufacturing countries in the West are the one, they get rich from our hard work, and we give inferior product. But we have this innate resource. And according to Julie Smith, economist, that for a woman to breastfeed for 2 years, she already computed the global value, trade value, that a woman who breastfeeds for 2 years contributes 3,900 liters of breast milk. And that amounts to 3 billion US dollars. So that is the invisible economy that we are contributing, not only in our country, but around the world. But that is stolen. Therefore, we need a campaign on the code to know why that not to undermine breastfeeding, why we have to empower everyone, because it is our future. We are protecting the nurturers of the next generation. And that will wake up policymakers because we have the data and the community can testify. So it should be community-led together with multi-sector. And with funds or no funds, we're not just talking about finances. We are talking about our work, about our productive, reproductive work with an economic value. And we are talented, we are creative. Let's do the action. Campaign on the code in every country and regionally.
Yes, Ines, I do agree that we must enforce the code, okay, because that really interferes with breastfeeding promotion, and supporting it, okay, because I think everyone should know about the code, right? So it's very interesting what you brought up just now. Okay, next would be Nabila. So, in your view, where could regional collaboration make the most significant difference, and what practical steps can we take to start this in order for us to have this regional collaboration?
Right. So for me, most of my experience as a volunteer is very much local. So when I went for my first IPFAN stands for the International Baby Food Action Network meeting, I was blown away. I think a lot of times we are working in silos in our individual communities. We're struggling with the daily firefighting. But when we meet, right, together, I mean, not just through when we meet regionally, sharing our best practices, learning even from other cultures and sharing of ours, right, we recognize that there are common gaps, and we appreciate that there are many different perspectives when it comes to helping families. And secondly, I think when we share knowledge, that's also where we build on our capacity. So capacity building is something that I really believe in, because I feel that we look a lot to breastfeeding experts in the West, but actually in our region, we do have experts among ourselves, even in our own countries, right? And I think when we do it regionally, when I expose my breastfeeding counselors to, say, fellow breastfeeding advocates, it can really change the way we look at how we can help families, how we can actually participate in advocating for breastfeeding, and not just in troubleshooting daily inquiries. Right, it's also about the mindset, right? I really love what Ines shared about our reproductive value, about breastfeeding being for the future. A lot of times when we talk about remedying breastfeeding problems, right, we always talk about the science of it, but at the end of the day, it is really a worldview that we should be sharing regionally, to also look at what we have in terms of our own expertise, right, in our region and locally. And I think that is really something that how they say that you want to look for things to solve in your area, you look for remedies within your communities first. And I think this really works for us regionally as well. And I think it's also a good way of forming checks and balances. When we look at each other's programs and we help to evaluate, or we give some kind of ideas or contributions, we are sort of helping each other to evaluate our own initiatives, and we bring home all these experiences, all the lessons that we get from other people that we can also put in place in our own communities.
Yes, thank you very much, Nabila. That is very interesting point that you have brought up, because it's interesting. having this webinar has also served as a platform for us to actually discuss and collaborate and sharing what we've done, because we are basically different culturally, but we are Asian, so we usually understand more about our people compared to the Western countries. So maybe we can have a lot more of collaborative efforts and activities like this, for instance. Right. Okay, Mina, I would like to ask you. So, if we were to design a regional breastfeeding support network, right, today, what key features would you include to ensure its effectiveness and sustainable in the long run? Because we don't really have a network. We may have, but it may not be more formal. So, if you were to design that some sort of network, what are the key features? Mina, you are muted, Mina.
I'm sorry. Okay. I think now we are very lucky because we can connect anytime, anywhere in the world. And we are more than lucky to have a very good wisdom in our region, a good culture space, a good resource in our region. I think for us, in our communities, I think if we can share more, learn from what we have, and share more, expand that. That is what I like to design the way of networking. It's not just like network, but it is like learning from our wisdom, tradition, and knowledge. Because there's a lot, and our it can be whatever it is. But I think people will like to now they will love to just have networking online to make it more convenient and very inexpensive way or something like that, and accessory easy. But in reality, we still need a human touch. Sometimes we need a gathering together, see and touch and learn and whatever. I think we have to mix up all this. Sometimes we do a networking, online to the whole world. We can make it. Okay, we can have a group like our breastfeeding support group Southeast Asia or something like that we can share. The topic in like this month we're going to talk about this. What is traditioning in your cultures and how it is going to be like improved or share or something like that, or the recipe in the region. We can make it like networking and online. But the most important thing is I love people to connect, to human touch, to have a human touch. Then sometime we can do. It is my dream that, and whenever we have a conference, we have the communities reunions or like a community market or something like that we can learn. It's like when we go somewhere, we like to see the local market. We like to learn from their life. What is in the resource in their community. This is something that refresh us and relax us and make us learn more. If we can if I have to decide, it's just looking for something like this. Learn from the wisdom and traditional and resource from you have, and then create more extraordinary that we can share the knowledge and innovation together. Then we can go on. And more like more in the future, rather than like just stay like this and waiting for the knowledge from somewhere else. We have it, and we have to share it and learn it deeply. This is what I think we need to. I hope I hope we can make it happen.
Yes, I really like your ideas about having a Southeast Asian breastfeeding support group, which would be very interesting to see and how we can go and move forward to that. All right. So before we go to our next cycle of questions for our forum, let's look at the answers from our audience about the poll that we just put up just now. All right. So Jess Wong says that the guess more volunteers and healthcare workers who are trained in better support families in breastfeeding engineering with good communication skills will be really helpful. So that those are the needs and the gaps in breastfeeding support system. And can we have other? Yes. Okay, Zarina Rahman. I think she's from Malaysia. So one gap that she observed is that this lack of education and understanding among healthcare professionals in both government and private settings about importance of breastfeeding in postpartum mothers and relationship between neonatal jaundice and breastfeeding. Yes, there is some sort of gap between among our healthcare providers, right? Not A says that I also like to add that in Malaysia, the gaps for breastfeeding support are quite remarkable between different socio-economic backgrounds, especially among urban poor communities and very rural. I does any other countries like Indonesia having the same problem like the what Nat says just now? Yeah,
Yes, yes.
maybe.
It's a bit
Hmm.
similar problem, and
Yeah.
I always say it whenever I had invited in a talk. Sometimes I have no background in health. My bachelor degree is in communication. I'm learning more about public health after I'm joining IME. And funny, a lot of doctors and midwives sometimes consulting to me about breastfeeding. So because it's a fact. It's a sad fact actually, because they supposed to know the basic information, the comprehensive at least also about breastfeeding, how to help mothers, especially midwives. But unfortunately, the education system also infiltrated by the industry. So the message that they get also confusing, misleading. So they're not also empowered as health workers. They're not empowered to help other mothers too. I think that's a same issue here.
Or how about Thailand, Singapore, and Philippines? Do you have that gap between the socio-economic status and background of your communities in your country? Who wants to start? Mina, you would like to comment?
Yeah, I think there is a gap between, I mean, professional and the lay person. I think, but professional always say something like very theoretical. But when people would like to get the feeling or the understanding, then it's something very easy. I think this is a big gap because I always find like they try to explain a lot, but finally the one who received the message not get much as they like to. Then maybe because they transfer the message as it is in theory rather than like emotional. When you transfer the message like emotional, people can get more than the like text, which is a lot. And our then this refer to the different socio-economy. The lower socio-economy would like to have something that emotional, like touch their heart rather than like seriously theory. Then I think this is another thing that when the doctors and nurse and midwives say something, they always explains a lot, but the people, lay people, I mean, not common people, not much really understand what they try to say. This is the gap that we found.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right, thank you, Mina. So from Dolly Hardip Kaur, she says the urgent gaps are more doctors who support breastfeeding efforts, because if doctors are not well versed in it, at least collaborate with a certified LC at their clinic to fully support this initiative. Yes, that's one of the urgent gaps, right? Because we don't have much certified LCs or IBC LCs to actually complement the care that we have for our antenatal mothers as well as postpartum mothers. All right. And Siti Hajar says that I observe workplace barriers. Many workplaces lack proper lactation rooms. Mothers returning to work often stop breastfeeding early due to lack of support. Do you also face that, Ines, in your country? About
Yes.
mothers coming back to work,
Yeah, the
stopping
working
breastfeeding?
women.
Yeah.
That's why
Hmm.
we conceive and deliver with the lawmakers a law to protect breastfeeding at the workplace. We call it
Mhm.
Expanded Breastfeeding Promotion Act that was passed in 2009. So the
Mhm.
importance of having a breastfeeding, enabling environment for a breastfeeding break within the paid work. And also, we have to change that culture all over the world, in our region, in our country, of blaming and shaming the sacred body of the mom. There's nothing wrong. If we are nurturing our baby, nurturing the future, we are the nurturers of the next generation. We can breastfeed anywhere, anytime, not
Mhm.
in an environment of fears, snide remarks, harassment, or putting you in a place that is not good, because breastfeeding is first food dining and breastfeeding is peace. And it has
Yes.
an equivalent of contributing to the economy if we save a lot and not making the milk manufacturers rich, but rather we are making our future rich. So we have to think economically, and also we need as mother support group in every place, in all sectors, not only for formal sector but also informal sector, everywhere. We have to train, not only training with skills, competency, but it should be with compassion.
Yes.
Breastfeeding
Yes. I do
counseling,
agree with you, Ines. Yes.
Agree.
All
breastfeeding
right. Thank you.
counseling is not only a prescription in 10 minutes. It is
Mhm.
an hour and more, and a follow up.
Can I
Yes.
add on a little bit from Ines?
Okay.
My
Sure.
point is, but point is, mom's is very sensitive. She's very emotional at that time. Then any words can hit her.
Mhm.
The common word we use can
Yes.
make
Mhm.
her feel so sad. That is what we have to be very careful. Then the way we choose the word to explain or saying this those that is very sensitive for moms, especially in the
Yes.
first like couple of weeks.
Yes, choosing the right word and communication skill is very, very important. All right, so let's move on to our second round of our forum. So let's start with Nabila. Uh, uh, um, I will ask you a question about in times of limited funding, how do we ensure that breastfeeding remains on the agenda and gets the resources it deserves? Your comment on that.
So yeah, so I mentioned in my presentation, how we lobby with the government to actually push for more nursing spaces in public spaces. I think it didn't start off from there, right? It started off from, when we do our surveys, when we do our discussions, our informal discussions. It's really about positioning breastfeeding as a need, right? That families
Mhm.
are breastfeeding, regardless of the rates, right? So the survey, our local survey found that even though our breastfeeding rates eventually dropped, at the start of it, 97% of mothers are actually attempting breastfeeding, right? Every day on our on our Facebook group, we have like hundreds of questions asking us, how do I latch, how do I position, and all that. So we realize the questions that are coming in are actually very basic questions. So that means these are coming from mothers who are at the start of the journey, right? So messaging and the positioning of how important breastfeeding is to families is something that, at least for in Singapore, right, that is something that we put forward, right? And of course, emphasizing that breastfeeding is public health. I think we all know that in Singapore, the formula players are actually quite powerful. I think in everywhere, right? But again, as a civil what do you call it, civil society group, right? We have to recognize with compassion that we cannot push aside families who are breastfeeding just because the numbers of people who are breastfeeding are low, right? The fact is that there are many families attempting breastfeeding, and it is only fair and right that we give them that opportunity and a good starting point, right? So coming back to like things like providing subsidies for lactation consultations, that's not yet in place in Singapore. We actually have this financial subsidies called the child, what do you call it? The CDA, so child development account. So the government gives us money. Every child gets like a few $1,000s, and that card is only available to be used for like say doctor checkups, right? Maybe for spectacles, for buying our children's things and medical things and all that. but it's not yet in place for lactation consultations, which are really expensive. And a lot of families will say, "Ah, yeah, so difficult to get to see a lactation consultant. So expensive to go to a doctor and check for a tongue tie, for example." Right. So I feel that these are barriers that are unfortunately, putting a barrier, putting a roadblock against families to actually even foray into breastfeeding, especially when they have problems, right? And of course, again, yeah, with limited funding, uh, it is also about us groups being creative about campaigning for breastfeeding, right? So a lot of times, at least in BMSG, we do a lot of free things, right? Free community. So we allow you free access or affordable access for workshops and all that, because the information is there, and you need credible people to guide you to the information, so that you don't have to worry that, oh, when I come here, I'm going to be swarmed with advertising, I'm going to be swarmed with people with vested interests, I'm going to be swarmed with people who have commercial interests. And really, for support groups like ours, and in many places in Asia, it's really important for us to be creative about campaigning, about sharing the knowledge. And really, sometimes we just have to be generous and be consistent. So a lot of you are asking, are your volunteers paid? Our counselors paid? They're not, right? But the fact that we have created a culture where, oh, I got great breastfeeding support, and I'm going to give it back to the mothers. When I come in and volunteer. And I think that is a culture that, although we are still small, we have not yet reached 100 volunteers at one time. But this is something that, at least for a small country in Singapore, it is a good start to a culture of sharing and positioning breastfeeding as more than just a statistic, but really a way of life, a lifestyle. It's affecting epigenetics, it's affecting our future, and this is the messaging that we should continue to propagate, right, in our discussions with stakeholders, including governments and agencies and all that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for your insight, Nabila, on the advocacy and resource thingy. Right. So let's move on to Nia. Okay, we've seen many common challenges across different countries from our sharing just now. So where do you think cross-country collaboration could make the most significant difference? Because, basically, most of our mothers in the Southeast Asia breastfeed, but the rate is not much. Not many, and to sustain it to exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months much be lower. So how do you think that cross country collaboration could make that difference?
I think we can do a lot of like setting successful stories from other countries, like what's program has been done in other part. Like Ines always travel all over Asia, Southeast Asia, even the world to talk about her wet nursing program, the Arugaan special lactation massage. So I think it's a good way for us to learn from what's good, what has been done good in other countries, that we can maybe learn from it, and then maybe we can try to do the same, maybe to I don't know, maybe to create something also and share it to collaboratively. So networking is really important for us, also to share the what's the struggle we've been facing. Like nowadays in Indonesia, we are facing a big challenge with the new moms, where they got breastfeeding advice from the industry side, and sometimes the industry itself is come from like a milk booster, where they have their own breastfeeding counselors and they sell the booster, even the mother don't need the booster. So I think it's a big challenge, and it can cause another issue in breastfeeding. We all know that. So I think maybe by learning how to handle the situation, how to maybe counter information, and maybe to inform other mothers, new mothers, about the way we promote it. Maybe I don't know, maybe like social media sometimes very fast, very moving, very fast.
Yes.
We need to learn to adapt to it too. And I'm not that young anymore, so we have to we have to learn a lot from other countries, I think.
Yes, and we need to engage the youngsters to, start following us and, to continue what we do.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, right. So next question would be, Ines, all right. So if you could change just one policy, all right, to make breastfeeding support more sustainable, what would it be and why?
A policy of creating mother support group in every district and providing that training, and we can collaborate, put our acts together with government and show
Mhm.
them. And also the policy of how to communicate to the young millennial moms. There are many young moms now, teenage moms. That's the big challenge. And they don't listen anymore in this kind of talk. They're not on live streaming. They are on TikTok. And that's how the milk companies do in their predatory work. They have influencer, they are paid, and they have a lot of tricks. So that is the big hurdle that I think we have to this year, last May at the World Health Assembly, it passed a resolution at the World Health Organization where the ministers of health come together. They
Mhm.
passed a regulation on digital marketing. I think every one of us in Southeast Asia should now start engaging in passing this into policy and law to regulate, because all of us don't have this regulation on digital marketing. Communication now is just a snap. It's all entertainment information. So we have to learn that. Not anymore like this, because they don't listen to too many words. Action.
Yes. Yeah, we may need to invite our celebrities, because as Nabila said to us that, it's the influencer culture and the youngsters and the Gen Z generations are more likely to be influenced by their influencer as well as celebrities. All right. Okay, so
Adding on to that, if you don't mind,
yes.
if we can add on to that, I
Uh-huh.
think we have to be the one being the celebrity. So
Yes.
we've got to go on podcasts, we've got to go start vlogging, you know.
Yes. Yes. We need to change the way we
Yes,
think. We need to, market ourselves better for the
correct.
young ones to actually involve in this, and take breastfeeding and normalize breastfeeding, right? Okay, so Mina, last questions for you. So how
Yeah.
can NGOs like yours, right, better share knowledge, tools, and resources so that we can avoid duplication and maximize impact? So how do we do that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, number one, we have to just like don't do the same. Okay, because when we always do the same way we ever, but now there's a lot of change, and the moms is not our age. The mom is the young gen, but we need to just catch on that. Then if we like to mobilize the NGO work, we have to catch the target, and target is young, not us. Then we have to change ourselves and learn to work with them, and the way of like communication or works will be changed a lot, like or Ines say, they're not listen to this like the slide like us. They go to TikTok. Why don't we go like that? I mean, in Thailand, we now have a training for breastfeeding influencer. We train them to make a video walk. We train them to make whatever it's in trend now, because we will not be able to just do the same because nobody listen to us. If we like to change, we have to target. I mean, go to our target and do whatever our target will like. Then in the breastfeeding way is also like that. We will not be able
Mhm.
to do the same as when we are moms, because now we are grandmoms. We have to really understand the word we use, the challenges, because the challenge now is not the same. The way the new generation look at breastfeeding challenge is not the same as us. They need a very exactly something, and they just listen to somebody. who they feel they like to listen. I think there is a lot of change and challenge us a lot if we do the work as an NGO. Then we will not be work like a logic, the old logic. We have to just like go to the new logics to just solve the problem. And the number one is you cannot give up. You have to carry on. If you stop or take a break, it's fine, but don't stop and don't do it again. Just carry on. You will learn and make it better. Everything, uh, from the past to the futures, and you will find a new generation and new one to come and join you. I think, I mean, because what we do is fact. Is
Oh,
the thing that never change. Breast milk is the breast for the baby. They never
yes.
change. A natural birth is best for giving birth. They never change. Then we have to believe that. I mean, everybody try to do the best, but we have to catch the way they feel like they accept it, they absorb it. And this is, I mean, very big challenge for NGO to move on. But what we know is we will not be able to do the same. We have to do to move it in a different way, but the same direction, the same result, the same outcome. We like to see baby breastfeed in the community. Every community has mom breastfeeding their babies and look very happy. That's it, our target. But the
Yes.
way we will not be able to do the same. That is our challenge. This is what I just like to remind everyone. I mean, this is my worry. We will not be able to do the same anymore. But we have same target. We have same direction. We have same outcome that we are looking for. Okay.
Yes, we should be more creative with how we tackle the young ones in order for them to normalize breastfeeding. All right, so thank you everyone for those thoughtful discussion reflection. So it is very clear that while challenges remain, the passion and collective wisdom give us a strong foundation to move forward together. So inshallah, may our collaboration will move forward and in order to uphold breastfeeding as the best nutrition for our babies for generations. So before we end, we'll just like to read up the answers from our polling system. Right, so Doreen Tan says that there's need more breastfeeding confinement as many times when breastfeeding was well established for mothers during the postpartum in baby-friendly hospitals, but the effort was undone when they went to confinement centers. Babies were separated from mothers and breastfeeding discouraged, and mothers were told that they have insufficient breast milk even when they are having oversupply of breast milk. Okay, so in Malaysia we do have trends when after they are discharged from the hospitals, usually the mother will have a package to be be taken care in a confinement center. So these are the gaps that we face. Okay, confinement center nannies may not be well versed on breastfeeding. So do you have the same issue in your country, Nabila?
I think for us, confinement centers are slightly new, so I think about 2 to 3 years. And yes, we have heard of parents who say that, oh, but my baby was taken to the nursery. Oh, the nursery is very nice, they have rockers and all that, and the mummy is allowed to rest. So I also have IBCLC friends who are called in by parents to visit these confinement centers. So of course, our fellow IBCLCs come back and like, oh my gosh. The practices that they are being, so we are also wondering why the mom is not advocating for herself, or probably she doesn't know, right? So it's a mix of many factors. The practices at the confinement center is one. Two, do the mothers know that rooming in skin to skin contact are things that, that are beneficial at least for the first few weeks of birth, right? So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's very multifactorial, and it is quite worrying, especially more and more families are turning towards confinement centers. And I think the other trend is confinement nannies. So confinement nannies who stay in and then saying that, they're dominating the conversation. Say, so, at night, mommy has to rest, so the babies will sleep with us, or the baby will have the bottle. And also, again, moms come to us expressing that they are not able to communicate the intent to at least breastfeed at night or co-sleeping at night. So these are unfortunate things that are happening right now. Yeah, over here as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Nabila, for sharing your thoughts on the comment. Right, so because we don't have much time, so to highlight today's shared themes and lesson, I would like to now to invite Dr. Zahara Sulaiman once again to give us a summary of the key insights from today's session. So please welcome Dr. Zahara.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Jasmine, and all the panelists. It's very, very exciting to listen to all the experience that was shared from different countries. Okay, so I just put this in one slide, and I've been listening to like the Thailand talking about the impactful projects, the lactation nurse, idol, and the breastfeeding nodes, And Singapore, you've been there for more than 34 years, and a lot of things that you're doing at your country level, even though your country is very small, but you are lobbying at the parliaments. These are really great things. And Indonesia, you're making useful of the religious leaders, especially Indonesia mostly are Muslim, So you're taking the opportunity. I think that's also great to make use of them, to advocate breastfeeding. And Philippines, the arrogant way, sorry, that's a spelling error, arrogant way. And, like how you encourage breastfeeding even for grandma. And you are also the examples of it, Ines, and I'm so proud of you that. And some points about in Malaysia, we didn't mention a bit, but in general, we see that in Malaysia, there are more collaborative work between NGO and the Ministry of Health in promoting and supporting breastfeeding. A lot of things that the ministry are working with the NGO, especially in the World Breastfeeding Week celebrations and other causes as well. So where do we go after this? We are talking about collaborations, efforts, and advocacy. From what I have listened to all of you just now regarding this talk today, I would say perhaps this is what we are talking about, like how can we do in the future, like strengthening the regional breastfeeding forum. Perhaps we can have this more regularly, instead of just yearly. Maybe we can have like more than once a year, to talk about this and have more chit-chattings. And also perhaps another one is to have a joint capacity buildings workshops in the journals, whether it's online or offline. That's even better. Yeah. All right. So this is what I can actually make a summary from the presentations. And thank you very much. I pass it back to our moderator, Judge Jasmine. Thank you.
Dr. Zahara, for distilling the rich discussion we've had into clear takeaways. So for our audience, there will be a feedback link in the comment section. Please fill in your feedback links, and after that, you will get an e-cert after this webinar. So please fill up your feedback about our webinar session today. So before we end our webinar tonight, I would like to invite Ms. Nia to share a short announcements about ITFUN activities. Please welcome.
Thank you, Jasmine. So again, in collaboration from IPFAN Southeast Asia countries, we are planning to have the first Southeast Asia Breastfeeding Conference next year. So please save the date on the 26th to 28th November in Bangkok, Thailand. So Mina will be hosting us there. So hopefully we can meet offline, so we can greet each other, like we can hang out together for 3 days and 2 nights together. 3 days, right? 26, 27. Yeah. So let's meet in Thailand. Let's discuss. Let's talk. Let's share, and let's also laugh and have fun in Bangkok. Also learning, of course, about and also updating our knowledge. And we're going to focus on the code. The topic for our conference will be focusing on the code, the International Code of Breast Milk Substitute. So please make sure you mark your calendar and also follow our Instagram, IPFAN Southeast Asia. where you can see the information on the more information about the event, or you can also scan the QR code in this slide and then just click there and then just join and follow us. Looking forward to meet you all in Bangkok, Thailand next year. So we'll see you.
So thank you very much, Nia, for the announcement of breastfeeding conference in Bangkok next year. So hope to see all of you in person in Bangkok, inshallah. So as we come to the end of today's webinar, I would like to thank our distinguished speakers, our engaged audience. You are all amazing, and the organizing team for making this webinar possible. So the conversations we've had today are not just words, they are a call to action. If we truly want to build a sustainable breastfeeding support system, we must continue to connect, collaborate, and advocate across borders, across sectors and communities. So that is all for tonight. Thank you again, and let's keep the momentum going. So stay safe and see you again in the next Malka Forum. Bye and Assalamu alaikum.